Well, censorship is, of course, a very, very big topic, something that's very close to our hearts here at the Aussie Wire. We've been fighting the battle online, but there are some people that took their anti-censorship battle offline. And this is a story that I absolutely love. It's the story of the Billboard Battalion. And Wade Northausen joins us right now. Wade, how are you?
G'day, Topher. How you going?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you for coming on the Aussie Wire. You got very creative when you saw that there were people who were being censored and couldn't tell their stories. Tell us a little bit about the birth of the Billboard Battalion.
So what it was about, Topher, was so many people who wanted to say things about what was going on with COVID and the vaccines and the lockdowns and the science, the actual real science behind it. So a lot of people were so frustrated they couldn't get anything online.
Yeah.
If they put anything up, they were censored. We saw doctors, professionals in the field who were censored, and the people were said that they were spreading misinformation. Well, these are the professionals in the field. Yeah. So, we decided to do something a bit different. So we thought to create a Billboard Battalion so that we do convoys and tours and standing educational programs by putting handwritten billboards on our utes and vehicles and taking them into public parks and areas. And that way we can put our message up and the censors can't censor you. And we've found that it is just enormously impactful, and people are so grateful that they can have a platform that they can actually speak properly without being censored.
There's two things that I love about this. It's such an old school solution to a new technology problem. I've got some images here. I'll let this video play while we talk. This is what it looks like. This is called the Forest of the Fallen. We'll get to the crosses in just a second as well, Wade. But I love just such a lo-fi, old school, not technology-based solution to this problem. I absolutely love that. But the other thing that I love, because I saw it myself during the COVID era, I had so many people reaching out to me and to my Topher Field page, crying out for someone just to listen, just for the chance to tell their stories. And no one was listening. They weren't being listened to, and they weren't being taken seriously. And I just found that to be an absolute crime of a situation. And you've found a way to give people a voice here. What's been some of the reactions that you've found, both from the public but also from the people whose stories are on these pieces of paper?
Incredible stories from the people who are vax injured or have passed away after. Such emotional stories, Topher, and explosions of what the hell's the word? They're just trying to express, explosions of expression because they've been so frustrated, so angry that, their stories, real stories, are being censored, and the general public don't get to see it. And the general public are just walking into what these other people have experienced, and they're getting the rhetoric, the normal rhetoric about how things are safe and effective and it's all good and it's going to help stop all this transmission and stop you getting it, when that's just not true. And people have been trying to warn others.
Yeah. Look,
and it's just one story that I'd like to say. When our very first convoy that we did, Topher, was in Echuca, and we had all our vehicles, and I was leading with my ute and all the signage and the lights and so forth. And we were cruising around Echuca, and in that convoy we had a group of nurses, and these nurses had been sacked from the Echuca hospital. Yeah. Because they wouldn't take the jab. So anyway, they had been trying to speak out and trying to get messages out. So they came on the first convoy, and anyway, we stopped at a park there, and they said, "Can we go back past the hospital again? That'd be good." So we went back past the hospital, and I'm leading the convoy, and we go a bit past the hospital, and I look in the mirror, and the convoy's missing.
Oh no!
There's only myself and Nick, number 1 and 2 vehicle, and I look around and the whole convoy's gone. So I do a bit of a U-ey and go back to see what the hell's going on. And these nurses, they've just decided they're gonna drive into the emergency area of the Echuca Hospital, and the whole convoy just followed them. So can you believe they've pulled up in the emergency area? They've got all their utes and their flags and their lights and whatever. And so then all their ex-workmates are all messaging them from inside. And the connection there was just miraculous.
Yeah, wow.
And once I got control of the situation again and got back where we wanted to be.
Out of emergency, out of everyone's way,
Well, and keep in mind, these are nurses. They understand the situation, and you know they could vacate the area in 2 seconds, and if necessary, they could actually swing back into action and help if a real serious emergency came in. Which is the irony of the whole situation,
isn't it?
But having said that, at the debriefing later, the barbecue that we had later, and this is a very important part of the message, Topher, is that the amount of relief that these nurses got in some form of being able to fight back. And that, the thoughts that I had originally about all this, that reinforced it 1,000,000 times more. So, you know, that's the power of this.
This is such an important message, and this is what the Aussie Wire is all about. We're about truth, freedom, and hope. And hope so often comes from action. Even though your action might be relatively small, we can't all change the situation. We can't undo what's been done. But by taking action in some way, big or small, it changes yourself. It changes your own emotional state and psychology. So I really resonate with that aspect of what you're talking about, Wade. No doubt about that. I do want to put a note here for the fact checkers who are no doubt hovering over this episode with a finger over the button to give us the ban hammer, that there is now a class action that's been accepted into court at a federal level against the government. I believe it was a state level, against the government's vaccine mandates from people claiming vaccine injury through the mRNA vaccine. So fact checkers, I suggest that you don't preempt the courts by saying that this is misinformation to suggest that people are being injured. You should probably let the court case run before you get yourself involved and get yourselves into trouble. So maybe just let this information get out there into the public would be what you should have done for the last 2 years, but would certainly be good for you to do from now on. Wade, I look forward to talking to you a lot more as the Billboard Battalion tour is around. You've just sort of launched a new phase, if I understand correctly. You launched it in Albury. That's where this footage comes from that we were just playing a second ago. This is you guys in Albury just a few days ago. Tell me about the large crosses. This is an evolution of what you've been doing.
Yes, absolutely, Topher. So we've traditionally done our billboard messaging, and this is an extension of that, is to start to highlight the issue of deaths and injuries that are connected to certain things that we're talking about. And what we want to do is, a lot of people have said, look, in our groups, we know about this sort of stuff. And the whole purpose of this now is to take this into full-blown public arena, because we want to get this message to the general public, who many of the people have pulled up and said, look, I've never heard of any of this stuff.
So many.
I've never heard of this. So this is a campaign to take these issues into the very heart of the public, so they can then become educated and see the realities of what's happened. And then they also can be aware of, don't get any more of this stuff. And we're putting up real stories with real people who have been really affected. And this thing stretches out its tentacles, wrap around everybody and squash everybody. So, this is a part of what we're doing, and this will be the first one, Topher. And we have counted this to be incredibly successful, because this was on the very edge of the Hume Freeway in just North Albury on the Victoria-New South Wales border. This is the biggest major road in Australia. And the reactions from people tooting the horn and the truckies going past, blowing the horn, has been amazing. So, we intend to expand this now and take it as far as we can.
Now, of course, the Forest of the Fallen there it's kind of a separate thing, but the same thing as what you're doing now with the crosses. We've seen a couple of media hit jobs on the Forest of the Fallen. One that stood out to me at the time was where they blew up this story about someone who had to reassure his friends that he was actually alive after people saw him in the Forest of the Fallen and thought that he must have died. Misunderstanding, of course, that there are stories there from people who have passed away, and also stories from people who have had adverse reactions, or what are believed to be adverse reactions, and misunderstanding the purpose of that. that. My point here is the media did this hit piece trying to suggest that there was misinformation in the Forest of the Fallen, that this person had to say, no, really, I'm alive. If you read deeper into the story, he did have an adverse reaction and acknowledged that it probably was the vaccine. But the media didn't tell you that side of it. They tried to just say, this whole thing is just, they're wrong, and we can prove that they're wrong because this person had to tell their friends that they weren't dead. Well, the Forest of the Fallen never said they were. So there's a lot of media games that go on around this issue, but I do feel like it's breaking open. And the Forest of the Fallen and the Billboard Battalion and Wade and all of your team, you've been on the leading edge of this in Australia, resorting to analogue means to get this message out despite the censorship. Well, that censorship is falling away now. The gig is up, and it's getting harder and harder for them to maintain the narrative that these things are safe and effective, and that's a good thing. But I want to applaud you and thank you for your work right from the very, very beginning in helping to get that word out despite the censorship. So, Wade, thank you so much for coming on the Aussie Wire.
You're very welcome, Topher, and same to you, mate. I know you've been at the coalface of the battle line, so to speak, as have many people. So, the message here is we need to stick together. Yep. We need to fight together, and that's what we're seeing unfolding, because these are critical times, absolutely critical times. We haven't seen the last of this, so very much appreciate the opportunity to come on your show, particularly being so new and that, Topher, as well. So well done to you, mate. This is another chapter or another platform as well that's in the business of helping to save lives.
That was Wade Northausen from the Billboard Battalion. You can find out more about what they're doing and where they're going to be, so you can support them at billboardbattalion.com.